Everything we have to continue to work on it now. My name is Paul James. I host the news every morning.
And the Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, dear friends, my lovely audience, and welcome to the East-West Show that is exclusively sponsored by Wolfers, the Belgian royal family designated brand of jewelry that has 400 years of glorious history and hand-forged by 10-year generations of the number one craftsman on global earth. Together, the name of Wolfers stand as the testimony to the spectacular and the share of the royal glory. And I have a very big sponsor. Okay, very good. Today, I'm so excited that I have a good friend for a long time here as my guest. And of course, if you drive on freeway, go back and forth, you will see on way in, his billboard there with a huge smile, all right? And I believe as an attorney, it is important you maintain that kind of smile, which to me means confidence and power. However, when you talk about politics, especially talk about local politics, that smile, that kind of confidence is also important, if not even more important. So with that, I would like to introduce to you my dear friend, Mr. Paul Cheng, an attorney for decades and a candidate for Arcadia City Council for District number
4.
Very good. So, welcome, sir, to the show.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and thank you, Jack. Especially, you've been part of the community at large in Los Angeles for years, and you've been the voice of many people that don't have that voice, particularly with your deep voice. But,
all right, thank you very much.
Just wanted to thank you because you've been a voice when other people haven't wanted to speak up. We've known each other now, I think close to 10 years, actually shortly after 2010.
Quite a lot, maybe more than that. And I was in your office several times, right? Remember? Yes. Even though I know Paul for so many years, more than a decade, and I believe lots of my people, my audiences may not. Especially, by the way, I have my own targeted audiences. They are number one, Chinese Americans, right? Who means your voters, And number two, they have the time, the interest, the ability to understand American politics.
Yes, sir.
Especially local politics.
Yes, sir.
So they're the one. It is important that they recognize you. Right? So as a start, I would like to invite you to give us some briefing about yourself, like your little bio, please.
Oh, sure. Well, I went to UCLA, grade school in Southern California. I've grown up in Southern California since I was 1. I've been here for over 40 years. I'm 44 this year. Formerly, I was a prosecutor in the Inland Empire, also in working as a city attorney, and then came out in Pasadena, opened up in Pasadena for over 10 years. So currently practice law.
So as an attorney, as a district attorney for city of Pasadena.
City of Hesperia.
City of Hesperia.
Yeah, so actually if you drive, there's Hesperia, Apple Valley, Victorville. It's a tri-city. It's on the 15 freeway. And so if you are driving to Vegas, you'll pass it.
I see.
Yeah, it's a great small community, very large territory, but it's a very small community and people there are very sweet.
All right, very good. And another thing, Paul, is a group of categories with questions, of course, all regarding your basic at this situation, this time, means to a candidate means that how do you know Arcadia?
Sure.
How much do you know Arcadia, right? what can you do to Arcadia once you're elected, right? And what Arcadia right now is in short of, and with you, what kind of difference you could add on to the city? Those basic I ask on an equal basis to every candidate.
Right.
So you want to start with which one?
Well,
how much you know about Arcadia?
Yeah,
about
well,
that?
there's a lot of, we should kind of unpack all of the questions. So I've been in Arcadia for almost 20 years, long enough to be able to know that I love Arcadia. Arcadia, if you compare it to any other city, is unparalleled. It's got the mall, it's got the racetrack, it's got a hospital, it's got beautiful homes, it's got beautiful people, and it's got a great school district. Parks. We
Library.
we don't really have that, unfortunately, as much in the southern part of Arcadia. It's mostly congregated up in the north, but we do have absolutely beautiful parks. Although the Arboretum is not technically as part of a city property, it's a county property. But if you ever walk in the Arboretum, I can be able to tell you, I think it's better than the Huntington Library.
But to the average people, though, they believe that this belongs to Arcadia. Because this is in your city, your land, the land is there.
Yeah.
Where are you going? I'm going to Arcadia. Where to? To Barrington. And then that's the answer, right?
Yeah,
So,
naturally.
Go ahead.
The Arboretum, it's incredible. We have a golf course. I mean, we have everything in one city that you would want, and no other city compares to Arcadia. It's that that incredible. The people save their entire life to move to Arcadia, and in fact, when my father, when he had passed, it was just my mother and I. I wasn't married at the time, and hand in hand, we went to different cities, and people told us, Arcadia is the place to go, and I feel so blessed having been welcomed into this city.
How big is the land? How large is the area of Arcadia by territory?
Yeah, it's not the biggest territory in the world. At the same time, I would definitely say that the city of Arcadia, although it's just not that many in square miles, it packs so much together in terms of everything that you would need to be able to live. There are people that live in my city that actually don't go outside of the city. I mean, if you think about it, if you want to go to a movie, you can be able to go to a movie there. If you want to enjoy parks, you can be able to do that as well. If you want to bet on the horses, you can be able to do that as well. And you've been
and dining, shopping.
Oh yeah.
All in the city, without having to go anywhere else.
Yeah, and you've been such a supporter of Arcadia and just the community in general. Just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, just over the years, you've been such a supporter of the city of Arcadia in general. Just wanted to say
I would say that Arcadia is a city that has no way to reject the love, right? And plus, when you're talking to a native-born Arcadians, and of course you're talking about, in Chinese, we have a proverb that when I talk about something, I talk as if I'm talking about my own house. So talking to Paul, I kind of have created a feeling that he's talking about his own house, his own family, that kind of thing, right? People-wise, how big is the population?
So it's about 60,000. It's not again a huge population.
About 60 plus minus?
Yeah, it's around 60,000 people. It's kind of gone up a few years, kind of gone down a few years, but we're looking about 60,000 people.
Right.
30,000 voters, around 11,000 per district. There's 5 districts in Arcadia.
I see. And more than 50 Asians, the way I look?
Yeah, so it's about 60%, depending on how you look at the numbers. You're looking at between 60 to 65%. Asian Americans that live in the city of Arcadia.
My point is that there is not much difference of their people's origin. However, understanding them as a politician, and it would be a lot beneficial to them, because you know their customs, you know their if possible language, you know what they think of, and you know their holidays and stuff like that, and that will bring the relationship even closer.
Yeah,
Right.
well, yeah, but one of the things that I think you've been very good about is that although we are Asian American and although we are immigrants, is that you've never specifically said, hey, we got to do something because they're Chinese. You've always said that we're all Americans. And I think that's one of the things that we really connect upon is that there's definitely a benefit. There's definitely a benefit to being able to understand a community, but at the same time, just like yourself, you're speaking to a global audience, you're speaking to all Americans. And that's the same thing with our campaign is that, yes, we can be more understanding, receptive of cultural backgrounds, of similar cultural backgrounds. But at the same time, we are representing all of Arcadia.
Thank you very much for having pointed out that.
No, it's
and
true.
Thank you
No,
very much for taking that kind of as a point to slanting.
Well, there are a lot of people, even in the media,
Yeah, you're right.
right, that would attack you. They would say, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do a certain thing to speak to all people? But you've always reminded me that, hey, look, we are one community. We're not going back to wherever we're from.
Beautiful.
And it's absolutely true. And
Beautiful, yeah.
individuals like you have encouraged individuals like me and other people, and even the media in general, to get into the mainstream community, because the mainstream being, all of America.
I tell you, Paul, that you won my support already.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you.
It was not long ago, I recall, that was a 4th of July show, and also the past Veterans Day show, and the President Day show. 3 times I brought the subject one more step up, elevated. And I say that we want to be understood. Oh, it was talking about the census, the 2020 census.
Yes, sir.
And I said that, of course, yes, we want to be included. We want to be counted for the fact that we have benefit to talk about. And yet, do we have to talk about obligations? Are we obligated? Are we supposed to ask ourselves a question? As an Asian American, what have you done to the society, to your community? If everybody thinks, I'm an Asian American, I should do more, and they say, I'm a Hispanic American, I should do more, so you will be looking at a better and a better and a better community.
Yeah.
So that is the logic that I promoted for at least 3 times. I thank you very much for having mentioned that.
No, it's absolutely true. I can be able to tell you because the media community is fairly small. Other people say, well, Jack's catering to all of Americans. We should be catering to a subgroup. And that's not something that I've been here since I was 1 year old. I mean, I love my parents. I love my background. I love being able to speak Chinese, but I love America even more. It's like being an American means so much to me, and you've been the exact same way, and that's been encouraging to me. We need more people like you, because your thinking, our thinking, is really what our children should be thinking. I mean, we're not telling our children to go back to China. We're just saying that
your background, your language, your whatsoever in the area, being a Chinese American, only works as an add-up to your ability of your service.
Yeah, it's
to increase the quality of the service.
Yes,
right?
sir.
That's a very good point. My dear friend, my lovely audiences, with Paul, I always want to go deeper into the subjects, and he accidentally just now mentioned one point that had my button pushed on the same tune, that we echo each other. And I really do want to call everybody to think twice about one, what you have done to this country, what you have contributed to your community, especially at a time when the politics are kind of so messed up with dog fights, though. You want to think in a bottom line way, say, hey, as a community member, what have I done? All right. So I would have to answer Paul's call. And I'm a Chinese American too. As a Chinese American, I regard my Chinese American part only as a extra ability of doing jobs of service. Thank you for having pointed out that. Let's take a moment out. When we come back, we'll continue with Paul, our candidate, the most hopeful for Arcadia City Council, right? And I believe that he has no doubt of winning. Only how much, right? I would say if we can, we want to make it a landslide. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
So, we'll be right back.
Le bijou icône de Philippe Wolfers qui date de 1902. Il faut la regarder contre la lumière pour avoir toutes les couleurs de ce bijou qui est extraordinaire. Avec les opales, c'est un thème très à la mode, à la période Art Nouveau. On voit en argenterie, mais aussi en peinture. Et ça a à voir aussi quelque chose un peu symbolique. Une libellule, c'est très belle quand on la voit de loin, mais quand on l'approche, c'est comme un dragon en anglais. On dit un dragonfly.
C'est une des grandes figures de l'Art Nouveau. Et cette pièce, mieux que n'importe quelle autre, témoigne de sa virtuosité. L'opulence, le raffinement, les courbes et les couleurs, et puis le thème aussi, qui raconte une époque. Libellule a été réinterprétée, plus légère, mais c'est bien à son aïeul qu'elle fait référence, une pièce désormais accessible à tous, puisqu'elle est passée de la boutique au musée.
Called James. I host this news every morning.
And a Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences, my dear fellow Californians. Welcome back to the show, The East West, that is exclusively sponsored by Wolfers, the Belgian royal family designated brand of jewelry with 400 years of glorious history and hand-forged by 10 generations of the #1 craftsmen on the global earth. Together, the name of Wolfers stands as a testimony to the spectacular and the share of their royal glory. Back to the show. With me today is my dear friend, I believe a dear friend to the community as well, Mr. Paul Cheng, an attorney for decades and a candidate for the city of Arcadia City Council. And the campaign has started for a long time. I joined his team a little later because I thought that was for granted that he will win. And of course, I still believe that he will win, but I want to make it a bigger time, right?
Thank you, sir.
With my help. And I have lots of people follow me. They follow whoever I take. And of course, you have to be the one that's doing your stuff in the right way that they like, right? So to Paul, I want to go back to where we stopped. We were talking about people, land, and the city, and the reputation, stuff like that. And now let's talk about budget. How about the city budget? In other words, what is his money doing?
Yeah, well,
The city's money doing.
You know, a lot of people believe we have a nickname for Arcadia. It's not the community of homes. Actually, that's our city motto. East of the 110, there is actually another Beverly Hills, and that's Arcadia. Not just Chinese people feel that way, but non-Asian Americans also feel that we have a Beverly Hills. But at the same time, one of the reasons why I stepped out, just want you to know, in 2010 I actually ran for city council, And I came out 10 years later, and a lot of people say, well, why would you want to come out 10 years later to run for office again? You've been practicing, everything is stable. The reality is we've had fiscal issues. We have money problems. In January of 2019, we were considering letting go of 13 police officers, 9 firefighters, and closing one of the firehouse stations. This was the second time in 10 years that this consideration was occurring. The only difference was in 2010, we were considering closing the library on multiple days of the week to be able to save money. That is unacceptable, right? If we are the Beverly Hills east of the 110, and I believe we're better than Beverly Hills, we should not be struggling the way we are struggling. So therefore, the citizens were presented with another issue again, which is, got to raise our taxes. And Measure A was passed not by a large margin, because the citizens said the same thing that you were saying is, where did our money go, right? However, Measure A was passed. We are able to sustain, at least temporarily, so that we can be able to keep our police and fire. Just to let you know, I've been endorsed by the fire department. They see our vision, which is that we cannot keep on breaking our promises to the foundation of our city. So the foundations of every good city start, in my opinion, with solid police and fire. When you have solid police and fire, you then can be able to have a better city. And so the fire department, when I spoke to them, even though we were able to save them by passing Measure A, so Measure A was passed on City Council 4-0. One of the city councilmen refused to vote on it. And so we were able to save them, but they told me that after seeing how Measure A was passed, realizing that it was only another few years before we were going to possibly break another promise, many of the people in police and fire have left.
Thank you very much. But those are the hardcore issues.
Those
right?
are.
And of course, I do not have a vote in Arcadia.
Yes, sir.
But I have a voice that Arcadia can borrow. And why you got my eyes wide open? Because with Mr. Lloyd Johnson of West Covina, we talked about several times about his dream. He even used his word dream, I have a dream, like Martin Luther King.
Yes, sir.
Talking about his department. I really dream to bring the number of our department, police department, to 98. Now they're down to 70. So, and I asked him, why do you do that? Why do you call that as your dream? He said, without a full scored and fully functional department of police, you're not talking about you're living in a safe city. So, do your constituents understand the importance of the little, I believe it's a penny, right? Whatever. It's a whatever increase, tax increase, to keep the police officers.
I don't believe that everybody does. Frankly, we didn't have a choice with Measure A. We either had to consider going to county police and fire. I mean, we love, LA County is wonderful, right? But local police and fire, they are able to be more intimate with their residents. They're able to know things. Where if you go through county's very big. They're much cheaper, but at the same time, they're just going to give you what they think is right. But our police chief, our residents, our fire chief, they're intimate with their city.
Right.
They're going to be able to take care of our residents so much better. Because there's obviously a move. If you opposed Measure A, you were basically saying that we are not going to raise our taxes. But here's the problem. LA County was planning to take the money anyway. So Measure A allowed you to get in front of LA County so that you can keep the money for your city.
Looks that we can stretch it
okay.
to really see what's there on the left, what's there on the right.
Sure.
To really see the coin to the both sides.
Yes, sir.
Right? All right, my dear friends, we will be right back. Please.
Everything we continue to work on it now. My name is Paul James. I host News in the morning.
And a Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, my dear friends, lovely audiences, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. I say to Southern Californians, especially if you happen to be a citizen of Arcadia, though, I would say that you cancel everything. Just watch this, because we're talking about some serious points of the city of Arcadia. With me is candidate for Arcadia City Council, Mr. Paul Cheng, and we are at the critical point, that relates on the left-hand side, on the other one side of the coin, the safety, security of the city, to be a safe city. On the other, of course, your pocket.
Yes.
Your pocket, right? So, and I would have my dear friend Paul Cheng, candidate of City Council, to tell you the both sides or each of the two sides of the coin, please.
Sure. Well, okay. Essentially, LA County can be able to enact a tax, and they're going to be doing that. So many cities, what they were doing is they needed to enact their own tax before LA County presented their tax, because if they didn't present the tax hike, the LA County was going to take it. So property taxes, for example, they go up to California and you get a specific percentage that comes back to your city. Well, the flip side, since you want to talk about both sides, one side of the coin is we need to have the tax so that LA County doesn't take it. Plus, we have problems in terms of not being able to maintain our basic services, such as police and fire. The flip side of that is that people were saying, well, it doesn't matter what you call it, it's a tax. I don't care who takes it, it's a tax. Why should the city have to raise its taxes to allow its residents to maintain police and fire? What have you been doing for the last 15, 20, 25 years? And so I understand the energy of both sides, but I do want to say, being a president of a Chamber of Commerce, is that one of the things that we had to do, that we've been doing, is educating residents on why the tax was necessary. And I understand that Arcadia, we've had many, many taxes over the years. Every few years it's, hey, do you want to live the way you are? More tax. Do you want this? More tax. You want good schools? More tax. I totally understand the negative energy behind that. But in terms of this specific measure, is that Arcadia really didn't have a choice. All cities are passing this same issue so that LA County doesn't take the money. And LA County is going to take the money.
Paul, you are right in one aspect. And on the other side of the aspect, though, I would recommend one thing, if I may please.
Of course.
Because there are two things, two kind of constituents, right? Number one group of them, they analyze, they do the analysis themselves.
Yes, sir.
You tell me the points, left on the right and left on the right, so on and so forth. They do their own calculation. They'll
Yes, sir.
come out with a result. And number two group of people are the ones that your followers. They don't have to do the calculation or whatsoever themselves. They do it upon the trust.
Yes.
I trust Paul. All right? Paul, go ahead, be our leader, lead us forward for the benefit of Arcadia. I'm one of Arcadia. I know that when you work for work, when you march forward, though, there's a benefit to Arcadia.
Yes, sir.
Talk about the trust. All right, now, I want you to tell your audiences, your constituents, why they should trust you.
Well,
Please.
yeah, there are a few things. First of all, I would be the only person on city council that has ever prosecuted a crime. So if the residents would be willing.
Oh, that's a huge plus.
Thank you.
That's a huge plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know crime.
Yes.
You know how crime. You know how to attack crime.
Yes. Now,
good.
a lot of people would say, well, who are you prosecuting? You're not prosecuting anybody on city council. But
No, I know, but you do not do the job, but you can tell with a prosecutor's eye.
yeah, well, having a prosecutor's eye, I think, has a different viewpoint compared to other people. And I've always said this, city council should not be comprised of one type of thinking. City council should be comprised of many different types of people that bring their own skill set and their own thoughts to city council. And so for me, being a former prosecutor, I can be able to say that our first responders, and this is just how I feel, they need to have security, they need to have adequate equipment, and they need to have the support of our community. And that's something that I think it should remain unbroken. The fact that our first responders in our city, they feel hurt. They feel we don't get paid as much as other cities. We obviously have good pensions.
You're right.
But I don't know if you know this about police. They have a 10-year less lifespan than other people. So if the average person, it's actually rising very fast, but it's about 72, 75 years old.
The
Yeah.
tension they're in.
Every single day. And actually, there are many people that after they retire, they die within 5 years. I had a friend, I won't mention his last name, his name was Eddie. I knew him for a long time. And actually, I was at his retirement party. Within less than 5 years, he was a sheriff. He committed suicide.
Okay.
That should break your heart, because
In other words, as a city council member, you have to, number one, think the whole parameter. Number two, think ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
To be prepared.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is that how can we take Arcadia into the next 40 years? Not take Arcadia back 40 years. I understand the viewpoint of some people, but we have to understand that we are better together. We are better as one community together, and we have to move forward in the direction of taking Arcadia forward for our parents, for our children, and for our grandchildren. And I believe that if you have that vision, then the first thing that you're going to be able to do is to work closely with police and fire to ensure that they have the security. I understand that a large portion of our budget does go to their security. I understand that. But there's a reason for that. Arcadia is a great city because of our first responders. Arcadia is a great city, and it has these nice homes because of the first responders. Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, I understand that there are a lot of people that think the first responders, they're just lucky. I think we're lucky. And if we had not passed Measure A, this measure to save our city, we would have had to go to county. And again, no disrespect to county police and fire, but they're just so big. They're so big.
You're right. That's a very good point. I would hope that you will hold it strong, because that reminds me of a subject. The other day I shared with Congresswoman Napolitano, and it was such that the Americans are such that they are easy to forget. Remember several years ago, at Christmas time, when San Bernardino had the shooting, right? And that response came in about 2 or 3 minutes right after, because it was so happened that one patrol car was on the spot, in the area, in the vicinity, circling, right? Something like that. And then it was all of a sudden, people talk first response. For 2 or 3 weeks, nothing is bigger than first responders. However, later, and sometimes the amp goes off and people forget.
Sure.
So I really want to recommend at the city council, once you're elected, be strong on those tough points. Those are tough points. Of course, people may say, hey, let's touch some reserve. Right now, I tell you, with the pandemic coming in, you never know what's going to happen. Never touch your reserve. Reserve. It's terrible to do that. Do you think that that could be a point that you can explain to your constituents?
Yeah, you made a very serious point, and that is, should we be touching money that we're holding for a rainy day? And the answer is, we really shouldn't. But I think that we may have to if we're not careful. Your point about the coronavirus, I understand that there are many city officials, not just in Arcadia, but more elected officials. They're telling everybody to be calm, and our goal is to be calm. But I want you to know that in America, I actually knew somebody here in the States, here in LA County, that died because of SARS. So this stuff is real. And the CDC has essentially come out and they've said that this could go past over a year. You would be asymptomatic, meaning that you don't know whether you're sick or not until it's too late. I believe the percentage is 2.5%. You could be a totally healthy person and then you would be deceased or, as a prosecutor would say, expired, at a just within a few days or a few weeks. And so it is scary. And I'm glad that you're bringing that up, because there are a lot of people essentially are saying, you know what, it's just like it's a cold. And you're one of the few people that have said, hey, we have to be really careful. You have to be really careful of traveling to China. We have to be very careful about people that have returned to China. You have said that we have to, quarantine ourselves. We have to follow the law or the suggestions that are being given out by the CDC. And I'm glad, because, we need people to speak the truth. I understand that we shouldn't be panicking. I totally agree. But we need people like you in the media to be able to say, hey, look, this is the reality. And it's very rare. Unfortunately, we don't have enough people telling the truth.
You're right. My dear friends, my lovely audience, I would like to point out that Paul Zhang looks to me not only a candidate for Arcadia as a future city council member, he also cares. He has a big heart. I could tell the heavy weight when he was talking about that issue, to tell the folks, number one, to be careful, number two, not to be overstressed. It is the point that it is the time that we need to be strong. It is time we need to be careful. We need to be very, very cautious. Unless unnecessary, money is not to be touched. However, he wanted to let his people, his future constituents now, to know that money is there. However, we are not using it when it's ready. Right? Good. All right, let's take another moment out. When we come back, we want to put all the points together to ask Paul one thing. Why you? Right? And in the title, as the title of the show, I use a first pronoun, say why me. Now let's ask Paul, why you? Right? So I did ask a little bit, however, we want to do it in a compact way. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Continue to work on it now. My name is Paul James. I host English News every morning.
And a golden angel award ceremony.
Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow on the East West. That is exclusively sponsored by Wolfers, the Belgian royal family designated brand of jewelry with 400 years of glorious history and hand-forged by 10 generations of the #1 master craftsmen. Together, the name of Wolfers stands as a testimony to the spectacular and the share of the royal glory. Back to the show. With my dear friend Paul Cheng, I start to see some future for Arcadia. I start to see some twilight for Arcadia. And of course, Arcadia, no wonder, is a beautiful city that everybody wants to be part of it. And yet, it has some short-term, long-term problems. To tackle with the problem, you need new thinking, you need new money, you need methods. Method A, for example, is one of them. With Paul, we are talking one by one. However, when putting all the stuff together, all the points together, though, I ask you one thing. Why you?
Yeah, well,
It sounds a very strange question, right?
Yeah.
Like this screen shows, the show title of today, Why Me? Your pronoun. Now say, why you?
well, I can be able to say that the reason why people would want to vote for myself is because I'm just one of the people. I'm just a regular, average citizen, just like everybody else, wondering why our city is not doing as well as it should. I feel that a person that would want to vote for me would want a person that is just like them, meaning that they want a fresh pair of eyes to look at the future of Arcadia and the city finances. Why would a person want to essentially repeat the same issues that we've had over and over again? Having a fresh pair of eyes, I think, is so critical. You know, I am not beholden to anybody. I don't owe anybody anything. And I think a freshman elected official is so critical at this time for Arcadia, because we've had enough politicians in Arcadia that is essentially gotten us to a place where I think it's very important for us to say, why are police and fire feeling hurt? Why is it that we aren't able to have basic services or services that residents should be able to rely on? Why do we have traffic lights in our district that are out of sync? we have traffic all over the place. It's not because of bad drivers. It's because of the fact that our lights don't work correctly. I mean, shouldn't that be a basic part of living in a beautiful city like Arcadia? Well, these are issues that I would like to be able to present. For example, we disbanded a youth commission. So we're talking about young people in our schools that have a viewpoint about the future of Arcadia. And we told them, you're not interested in Arcadia. Adults are. Well, let me ask you, do we know where the marijuana grow houses are? Do we know where the prostitution houses are or illegal activities? Do we know why there are so many empty homes in the city of Arcadia? Many times adults don't, but our children, they do. We need to create that commission so that our children, both in high school and junior high, can be able to give back to the community by being able to communicate with city council. We need to have a finance commission, a permanent finance commission that reports every single time city council is on the dais, so that they can be able to say, Mr. Cheng, you're wrong. You need to have transparent finances with the city. This is wrong, that's wrong. Ultimately, the decision would be city council, but we need to get called out. These are things that only a fresh pair of eyes would want to do. I think that once a person becomes an elected official and they're used to that kind of being an elected official and having that type of power, is they're worried about not having the power. Well, a fresh pair of eyes, we really wouldn't care.
The more you do right things, the more power people will give you, so you're becoming more powerful. And it's by acting you earn your power, and not by being afraid of doing things. You back up from problems, and by then you will not be authorized with anything as power. Am I right?
I totally agree with you. I think that respect is earned. I don't think it should be given. Unfortunately or fortunately, when you're on city council, you automatically have power. But you know what? Power shouldn't be unchecked.
Do you think that the voters, the constituents, should have to notice the fact that to care about the candidate's educational background?
Well, I do. I also think that both education as well as a person's work ethic, I think is really important.
The reason I'm asking is that in turn, how much effort this candidate would put in education for the benefit of kids, which is our future.
True. I think that a person's education is important. I also think a person's work ethic is also very important. I've worked since I was 13 years old. I started in the restaurant business. I started scrubbing toilets. I didn't think
you started very early.
Yeah, I worked 15-hour days. It didn't seem wrong at the time. Obviously, now that we're older, we kind of think to ourselves, boy, that's illegal. But yeah, I just started cleaning toilets. That was my job. And then I got upgraded to a busboy. Then I got upgraded to a waiter. Still pulling those, 13, 15-hour days. I mean, back in the 80s, it didn't seem that big of a deal. But yeah, I've
that, you know what, that provides you another benefit, that you know the grassroots thinking. You know the bottom people at the very bottom line of the society, how they think. You understand them, right?
Yeah, I feel that I'm able to have an understanding of a lot of different people. I understand that, a lot of people look at me in a suit and tie and slick back hair, and it didn't start that way.
All right. There is only one last question I'm going to ask you to conclude today's show.
Yes, sir.
It is my concern. Take Arcadia High, for example.
Yes, sir.
Right. You have lots of rich kids.
True.
Right? They drive Mercedes and above, Maserati, Rolls Royce, and to them, but they want to do a kind of underground competition about whose family father is rich and richer, something like that. Do you see that as a risk? Or do you see that as some challenge for the city, as a city council member, for your future agenda, please?
Well, yeah, over the last 15 years, we've had a very unique group of people that have come into Arcadia. It's unlike when I first came to the States. When I came in '77, we weren't wealthy. You know, we worked. Yeah, there are a lot of kids in Arcadia. I would definitely say they're called parachute kids, and what that means is they parachute into a city. They don't really have parental oversight, and but the parachute kids of the '70s and the '80s are different than the parachute kids of 2020. You know, they're extremely wealthy. They hold a lot of these outrageous parties. They drive cars that people shouldn't be driving, and they do things in the city that I think are inappropriate. And so one of the things that I think we have to do is we have to begin to understand their background, be able to bring them in, not ostracize them, but really bring them in as what they are, which are residents, be able to incorporate them within the city so that they can become, just like you and I are, Americans. There's a view of many of these parachute kids that they're just here for 2-3 years and then they just leave. And so many of them are not engaged in the community. But you know, I've worked with a lot of these parachute kids, and I want to tell you that if given the opportunity to give back to the community, they are willing to. And I would hope that we can be able to incorporate them in as quickly as possible.
All right, very good. And I'm glad to hear that. However, it is very complicated because by regulating the kids, though, you're making the parents not happy.
Sure.
And who are richer than average people,
Sure.
who hold the support to you as a council member. I really hope that you will weigh it in the future. I believe if you see that through, right, and find something that is understood by the parents, both the parents and the kids.
Yes, sir.
For example, at certain hours or a certain period of the day, you're not supposed to drive that kind of car or so on and so forth. Or at least to teach them when you eat in a restaurant, try to keep quiet. Not do it in a way like you're like a demagogue stuff, right?
Yes.
Right? That's
Yes,
the
sir.
word probably, right? And that probably will be recognized by both the kids and the parents and school principals, right? So I really pin my hope. As a dear friend, I give you what I think, my dream, to carry forward to Arcadia.
Thank you, sir.
My son was in Arcadia when he was little, when he was young, and I want Arcadia go the same road, the same way.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, my dear friend, today with my brother Paul Cheng, attorney in law, and as a city prosecution officer and then DA officer for life, and of course he is now running for city council member, city council for city of Arcadia. I believe that he has the best seniority, and he is the best candidate, and he will win, no doubt. But we want him to win a bigger time. On the voting day, which is
April 14th.
April 14th, just the day before our tax day, or you may wrap up your tax before that day and be a free man on the 14th, work out to cast your vote. Don't forget Paul Cheng. Paul Cheng is your selection. He will give you a better Arcadia. All right. So anything else? You have 30 seconds.
Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to view this, and I just want to say that I would hope that we can be able to get your support for April 14, 2020. The ballots come out around March 16th, and make sure you vote. Your vote matters. Thank you very much. I'm Paul Cheng for Arcadia District 4.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes the show today. I'll see you another time.